Okay, good evening. We'll allow a few people to get on here this evening, and hopefully we can start doing our show here in just a few moments. It is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight, special Wednesday edition. Since we didn't have a show Monday, we did some pre-game show on Monday evening. And let's see if we've got anybody actually live here this evening. I don't know if we're actually broadcasting on our X page. And we're not. That's not a good thing. Not sure if we're even live anywhere. We are not on our X page for some reason. We got somebody on our YouTube channel. Can't understand why we are not on our page. So we're going to have to do a little improvising. And if you just give me a moment here. Sometimes these things happen. Okay. Okay. Well, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes it does. And I'm just here to try to figure out the technology. Welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. If you're jumping on right now, we are happy to have you on. John Phillips here. We are going to do an hour tonight, not a big supersized show like last evening. But I wanted to clean a few things up. Obviously, Art Rooney II spoke today over at Steeler headquarters. We want to make sure that we bring that to you. I think that that's something that's important. Let's just say hello there. Hope you're having a good day. Mean Green, nice to check in with you as well. Good to see you, folks. Thanks, Mean Green. Yeah, we are. We've had a good, Wednesday's a good day. Today's payday in my world, so it's always a good day. I get paid weekly. That's one of the benefits of working in the staffing business. This time of year, it's a little leaner than others, but it's always a good day to be above ground. Mean Green, it could be a lot worse, right? Could be in a whole lot worse situation than a few others, that's for sure. But I'm glad that people are able to join us. Hopefully, if you're on our X page, you see the pinned tweet, you can just check us out via It's a Wrap Sports. This was a bit of a kind of put this together a few hours ago. Normally we don't broadcast on Wednesdays, but with the pregame show Monday, and then obviously the big news yesterday, and about 1,200 people were able to pop on yesterday and join our show. It was nice to be able to, have that kind of crowd yesterday, and obviously on the news of Mike Tomlin. I wanted to make sure I got back on the air tonight for about an hour and just kind of cleaned up a few things. We are going to bring you Art Rooney's presser. He spoke to the media for about 15 minutes today. We'll play that in about 12 minutes. I'll do that about 7:15. We'll play that entire clip courtesy of the Steelers YouTube page, and we'll hear what Art had to say about obviously Mike stepping down and what the Steelers as an organization are going to do in terms of moving forward. There's been a lot that's obviously been made over the last 24 hours about who they should be able to who they're going to go after, who they're going to talk to, who exactly should the Steelers be looking at in terms of the organization. Obviously, there's a lot of unrestricted free agents that the Steelers are, going to be possibly losing. Adam Thielen today announced his retirement from the National Football League. So that wipes off one of the 20-some names that the Steelers had in terms of players that would be under, are not under contract anymore. That includes, of course, Aaron Rodgers, some of the more notable names, Asante Samuel Jr., Calvin Austin, Connor Hayward, who played a role, I guess, in, obviously in the tush-push plays that they had this year. Isaac Seumalo on the offensive line. Jabril Peppers was another one. Kenny Gainwell, who I reached out to for possibly bringing on the show. He is now a UFA. There's going to be a Brinks truck probably backed up to that young man, and rightfully so, and good for him. those are just Kyle Duggar's the other name. Marquez Valdez-Scantling are just the primary names that are UFAs that will be looking for work this winter, possibly with another team. I don't know if there's anybody on that list that you hear that might interest you. So we're going to get your thoughts and comments here. What are your thoughts on hearing Mr. Rooney? I only heard a few brief clips on the fan this afternoon, Mean Green, when I was driving around in the car. That's why I want to play it for you today. I didn't know that he actually spoke. I was kind of busy today with the day job, so that's why I want to bring that little press conference. It's a short amount of time, but it's enough that we should get some insight into what Art had to say regarding the upcoming search. And and as I've said online and yesterday, I think this team is very thorough when they go through this type of process. And again, it's only a handful of these. And I certainly remember the search for Chuck Noll's successor, and having again covered Bill Cowher early in his career, and then covering Mike Tomlin in his career early on. I remember these processes very well, which makes me an unk. But, I've been fortunate enough to have been around sports media here in this town for almost 30 years now. So actually over 30 years, to be quite honest with you. But the simple fact of the matter is that I think everybody that's up in arms about what has happened in the last 24 hours needs to calm down just a little bit. Okay. And, this team, one thing I will say about the franchise is that, the stability that they've provided their coaching staff is part of why they've been successful. You have this amazing organization that has, gone out and won a lot of football games over the decades. Of course, the 6 championships and, a few other Super Bowl appearances where it didn't go as well. But the bottom line is that the Rooney family has a process. It is in place, and they are going to exercise it here by just being diligent. By being diligent. And then that's the key, right? That's what separates them from, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? That's what separates them from other organizations, their ability to go out and take their time, go through a process, look at people that they feel like are good fits. And again, they have a profile, right? If we've looked at anything regarding the Steelers themselves, they have this ability to look for what they want. It's young, usually mid-30s, and in a lot of cases, somebody you've never thought of. Right? Bill Cowher wasn't really thought of. Even though he's a Pittsburgh guy, wasn't really thought of. Nobody had any clue who Mike Tomlin was. So that's something that they will do, and I think do well. Do I think they'll make a big splash? I don't know. Will there be a new standard set with the Steelers' new head coach? Yes, Mean Green. I absolutely agree that they will. Ethan is king. How you doing? Good to see you this evening. Karen, thank you for checking in. I appreciate you and your comments, all of you folks that are joining us this evening. I think that we're going to get whoever the candidate that they select is. I think it's going to be somebody that has fit their mold over the last 6 decades, right? Somebody in their 30s, somebody who may not be on the radar of a lot of people. Maybe somebody does mention a name. I think there are people that are already now looking at the Steelers and what they've done in the past and saying to themselves, okay, well, maybe here's somebody that might be, a candidate for this position. I think we've all obviously, we've gone over a number of names that we want to look at. I think Brian Flores, Ethan, is definitely somebody that the Steelers should be looking at. He's only 44. He spent a year in the organization. We know what kind of a defensive mind he certainly has. I want somebody offensively, but I don't think it really matters. What matters to the Steelers is that they find the right person that they feel fits their organizational fit, and that's really the main key. All right, let's do this. Let's get Art Rooney's comments in here now. Let's get this thing going. Let's hear what the president of the Steelers organization had to say. Be patient. It's only about 15 minutes. We may not even play the whole thing, but I want to get it started for you right now.
Coach Tomlin and I met, and Mike informed me of his decision to step down as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was an emotional day for everybody in our organization yesterday. Mike's been a great leader of our franchise now for 19 years and led us with toughness, integrity, and always reflected the values of our organization. I think you all know his many accomplishments, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl victory, many AFC North titles, and many, many wins. And the bottom line was, we were always in contention with Mike, and that's what counts. More than his accomplishments, Mike was a steady and respected leader, cared deeply about our players, our staff, and the whole Steeler organization. He represented the Steelers with class and dignity every single day. And on behalf of my family, everyone connected with the Steelers, I want to thank Mike and his family for being part of Steelers football for the last 19 years. We'll always be grateful. And now, obviously, we turn to our search for our next head coach. Omar and I will lead the search, and we'll rely on others in the organization to help as we go forward. So look forward to getting started with the search and starting with the next chapter of Steelers football. So
open it up for questions. Or did you get any sense over the past couple of weeks, months that Mike was possibly leaning in this direction, and it was his decision alone?
Well, it was his decision, and I will say that I wasn't shocked, but I wasn't expecting that conversation yesterday either. There were, when you get to this stage of a career, obviously, he even mentioned it himself that he was nearer to the end than the beginning. And so, you could see that coming. And so, as I say, I can't say that I was shocked.
Would you have been willing to give Mike the extension on his contract before 2027's March? And did he ask for that?
No, I'm not going to get into his contract at this point. I was certainly willing to, take another run at it next year with Mike, and that's what I was expecting to talk about yesterday, but obviously went in a different direction.
And how long did that conversation last with Mike yesterday?
Probably 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
How long before the team meeting did he let you know that was going to be his plan?
I guess it was late morning or something like that.
Every year there's scrutiny and criticism that the coach faced, but you may have reached a different level this year with the fire Tomlin chance. Did you get a sense of talking with him how maybe the fan reaction or negativity may have influenced his decision?
I think that I'll leave it to him to explain to you someday what all went into his decision. I think that in my mind and the discussion we had, it was probably more of a family-related decision than a football-related decision. But as I say, I don't want to speak for Mike on that.
What is the timeline of getting another coach in your current scenario for you?
I don't want to put an exact time frame on it. We'll get started right away, and it'll take weeks at least, I would say. Nowadays there are a number of protocols we have to follow that are sort of really designed to slow the process down, and so as I say, it'll probably take at least a few weeks.
You guys haven't done this very often over the years, but you've had a type. Does young up-and-coming defensive coordinator still work as a blueprint, or once you expand that?
For now, I don't want to sort of put any real parameters around it. We're going to, be an open book in terms of, who we look for and the list that we build. Could I sign up for another Chuck Noll or another Bill Cowher or another Mike Tomlin? Sure. Somebody that we feel fits that mold would be great, but for now, we're not going to kind of narrow the box too much.
Along those same lines, what traits, what characteristics are important to this organization when you are looking for a new head coach?
I think there are a lot of things that go into being a successful head coach. Number one, really, I think in my mind is leadership really trusting that this person can stand up in front of your team day in and day out and hold their attention and have them motivated to do what they do. So, that's the most important.
Can you explain exactly what's left? Can you explain what's left on Mike's contract and how that will affect things moving forward? What he decided?
I'm not going to get into the contract today. I don't think that's necessary at this point.
A lot of head coaches are, looked at for being play callers, guys that are more heavily involved in the schematics. I know having that leader of the room is important, but how much is maybe having that intertwined into the decision making and the search to find that next CEO of your coaches?
I mean, look, as I said, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of qualities that you look for, and obviously somebody that has the experience of doing what we need them to do is going to be key.
When you do this as infrequently as you have, it's been a long time. What do you remember about the search for Mike? How involved were you in that process? Is there anything that you remember from that time that is fresh in your mind as you go forward into this now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been involved in a number of searches going back to Coach Cower and obviously GM searches. And, I think when you start the search, I think if I've learned anything, it's to have an open mind. When we had Mike in for his first interview, certainly wasn't expecting that he was going to be our next head coach. And so I think you go through the process and be diligent and, hopefully you come out with the right guy.
Obviously, you were happy with the job that Mike was doing. You didn't necessarily expect that he was going to tell you he was leaving, but you also weren't surprised. With that in mind, have you had an eye or just looked around over the last couple of years of guys that could possibly be in line that you would be interested in interviewing if there was a head coach opening here?
Not really. No, I haven't spent a lot of time doing that, to be honest.
You want to talk about the contract itself, but obviously he's still under contract. There could be compensation or trade. Is that something that did he indicate he might want to coach again? And would you be interested in something like that?
Mike indicated that he did not anticipate coaching, at least, in the near future. I think he wants to spend time with his family and do some of the kinds of things he hasn't been able to do for the last, many, many years. And so, if something like that comes up, we'll deal with it when it comes up. But right now, that doesn't seem to be on his radar.
All right. Could you kind of take us on maybe a day-to-day level with Mike and personal, what are you going to miss most about the everyday interaction with him and just moving forward, not knowing that Mike T not in the facility?
I mean, Mike was great to work with day in and day out. Just an incredible presence in the building. Someone that you walk into a meeting and, discuss what needs to be done and that's the plan. So no backtracking on things, no sort of hidden agendas, anything like that. Great to work with.
Would you anticipate anybody currently on Mike's staff being a candidate for his replacement, or is the idea maybe to start fresh with somebody outside the building?
Right now, I don't think that anybody on our staff is a candidate. Maybe a candidate to stay on the staff, depending on what the new head coach wants to do, but probably not as a head coach.
Art, in terms of that, with the new head coach, will you open that door for them to create a staff, or do you want a hand in that?
No, that's a big part of the search for a new head coach is really understanding their ideas about the staff and who they would want to hire. So yeah, that's an important part of the discussion.
The new coach, Art, will he have as much say in player personnel as Mike did, or will the dynamics and chain of command kind of shift a little bit with how long Omar's been in his role?
Yeah, I don't think I anticipate really changing our structure or chain of command. I expect the new head coach, like Bill Cowher, like Mike Tomlin, like Chuck Noll, will be very involved in preparing for the draft and working closely with Omar and his staff and making sure we're ready.
All right, I know you said you don't have a timeline, but is there a date that you kind of need a head coach by, maybe like the combine or something like that?
I mean, if you have to put an outside date on it, certainly the combine would be nice to have one before then, yes.
Mike was close with a lot of the veteran players. Did you foresee this maybe leading to a roster reset where you will get younger because of this? What happened?
Yeah, I think it's too early to say what effect it's going to have on the roster. The new coach obviously going to have a lot to say in that, and so we'll have that discussion when the time comes.
Following up on that, you guys have had a type of 3-4 defense, and you guys have developed players around that identity. How much is that involved in your search? Is that something that you guys are you prioritizing finding the coach, and then we'll figure out adjusting the roster after the fact?
Well, I think part of the discussion with candidates will be our roster and how they view our roster, what they would do with our roster, and making sure we're all comfortable with that plan.
Mike had, he listed Mike's numerous accomplishments, the Super Bowls. He also had the streak of not having a win in the playoffs the last 9 years. How do you kind of characterize the Mike Tomlin era of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
You know, it's been a winning era. As I said before, always in contention. So I think when you start with that, you have the opportunity to take the next step. You know, I can't explain kind of the more recent history there. It's hard to explain given the overall track record. Frustrating for all of us, mostly for Mike. But all in all, you know, I'll take being in contention every year and having a shot at it.
Did you get a sense that the recent history, that lack of playoff success was something that had been weighing on Mike and factored into his decision?
You know, I can't say. Again, I'd leave it to Mike to kind of talk about what factored into his decision. I've already said, to me, it was more a family decision than a football decision. So I'll leave it at that.
You mentioned a couple of times about saying it every year had a chance. There's a school of thought. A lot of people say, tear it down, build it back up. There's been, or get a high draft pick. That seems to be a big talking point amongst media and fans and everything. Do you disagree with that philosophy? Do you rather be every year right there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why you waste a year of your life not trying to contend. Obviously, your roster is what it is every year. It changes every year, and so you deal with what you have every year and try to put yourself in position to compete every year. And sometimes you have the horses, sometimes you don't. But I think you try every year.
As a team president, as the head of the organization, we have your most valued employee telling you that he just wants to resign. Do you try to talk him out of it?
I did not. I mean, he was pretty clear about what his intentions were, and so I think we had a great conversation, and I understood where he was.
I know you like Mike beyond just being a good football coach. I mean, like when he was talking about the reasons for it, you said you weren't shocked. You were surprised you had the conversation, but you weren't shocked. Why? What did you see and what did you sense that you weren't shocked that he made this call?
I mean, just a sense. I mean, I'm not sure I can get into a lot of details with you on it, but just again, when you're going into 18, 19 years of a career like this, he said it himself. He knows it's not going to go forever. So I think we all knew that we were getting toward the end.
Okay, let's just cut this off here at the last few minutes. I think that was more than enough from Art Rooney II. Some interesting comments, certainly at the very end, in terms of, I think we knew at the very end. I did hear that this afternoon on the Fan, and I'm glad that we were able to end on that note because that's where I want to actually start. Look, this has been building for quite some time. I think we can all agree on that. Right. And we were fortunate this year to have Todd Haley on the majority of our pregame shows. And, Todd and I have talked off the pregame show, on the phone and have kind of text once in a while. And, Todd made it real clear, especially on a few of the pregame shows when we talked about, his father. He talked a lot about his dad a few times early on. And he said, his father taught him, to kind of just drown out the white noise that's outside the building, right? You got to put the blinders on. And I think, the last few years, and we're human beings, right? Ultimately, when it comes right down to it, folks, Chuck Noll set a great standard that was followed up by some great people, Mean Green, no question about it. The fact of the matter is that in the last few years, I think that the noise was heard by Mike. And I don't buy into some of the people out there that said, oh, Mike was turned off by the fans and what they were saying. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that that's the case. And I know what that implies. Look, fans across the NFL are going to boo any head coach when you're losing, right? That's why and I don't want to speak on specifically who it is, but you can go out there and listen. I mean, I know Ryan Clark said some things, but there's enough people out there that are going to say X, Y, and Z about Mike Tomlin and the fans, and they want to get rid of him. Fans want to get rid of 31 coaches in the NFL every single year because there's only one team that wins a championship. Okay. At the end of the day, one team gets to lift a Lombardi at the end of the year. Okay. That's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that there are probably 25 coaches that fans across the league, 20 coaches across the league, at least every single year, that fans are not happy with, and they're calling for the firing. Okay. We forget that. People forget that kind of stuff. Mike Tomlin is not immune to hearing fans. And as I said, after the Buffalo game, when they booed Renegade, and especially when the Fire Tomlin chants were coming up, and rightfully so in terms of fan disgust, right? The Bills ran for a record amount of yardage against us in our own building. He's not immune. It was addressed in the post-game presser, and it was addressed on Tuesday in his press conference after the Bills loss. He's not immune to that. They, of course, ripped off 3 games winning streak, and they were on the cusp of winning the division outright. And, of course, they went to Cleveland and crapped the bed. And then Tyler Loop misses a 44-yard field goal. That's why the Steelers got into the playoffs. This retirement or this stepping down could have happened 9 days ago, 8 days ago, easily. And, as I had Paul Zeiss on yesterday, and he said in his, Paul does stuff on his X page for the Post-Gazette. He's been gracious to join us all season long. And I have a long relationship with Paul, and I'm happy to be working with him again. The fact of the matter is that Tomlin has been thinking about this for a little while. And when you've been doing a job of this nature for 19 years, you are going to have, you're going to have thoughts about maybe retiring or at least stepping away. You're going to have thoughts about this at some point in time, especially when you're not winning playoff games. And I've had this conversation on X and with some people and Facebook as well. The truth of the matter is that no coach is immune to the pressure. They're just not immune to the pressure because winning in January is what you are paid for. You got all these ex-players defending Tomlin and all these people defending Tomlin, and the grass is always greener, and I don't want to hear all of that. You get paid to win games in mid to late January, period. And he was not doing that. There are coaches that preceded Mike Tomlin that could not win in January, and they lost their job for less. This man had 9 years. 9 years he has not won a playoff game. 9. And in the last 15 years, he's won 3. 3 in the last 15 years. This franchise, not Arizona, not Cleveland, not Minnesota, not New Orleans, not Seattle, Pittsburgh, a gold standard franchise, one of the top 5 franchises in the National Football League, and you can place them however you want. My trip to Green Bay in October was an eye-opener. You had always heard about Green Bay, and I went to Green Bay for a week because I was up there for work. And I mean, I understood that when I went up there. I was able to understand why Green Bay is this unique place in the National Football League. I mean, the whole city is about the Packers and their 13 championships and the lore and the history and everything, right? And the same thing can be said here. The same thing should be said about our city and our franchise. I don't have any sources anymore, Nick Avocado. I used to, but a lot of the people that I used to talk to are retired or long gone. I do appreciate all your kind sentiments. I think Mike was done. I really do, Ethan. I don't think he was sticking around. Don't think he was sticking around, no matter what. It was just, it just was time, right? It was time. And Mike, I think, knew that. I think he knew that. And yeah, okay. Is the sentiment of the fans playing a role in that decision? No, less than 1%, right? Less than 1%. The fact of the matter is, I think Mike Tomlin probably just had a good look in the mirror and said, do I want to continue to keep doing this? Given the fact that my quarterback is 42, given the fact that, he looked at the roster, right? I'm sure he looked at a lot of these things and just thought to himself, and I'm not even taking the family and personal stuff into case. I mean, obviously, Art touched upon that, right? He has spent 19 years of his life watching his kids grow up, and, Mike's about football. Mike gets into that building early. He leaves late. He's the first one in. He's the last one out. As Paul Zeiss eloquently said, for Bill Cowher, it was slightly different. He wasn't the first one in the building. He wasn't the last one out. When his kids had something to do, he was there, right? His wife died of cancer. That was obviously a very traumatic thing. He was, he took time to make sure that he spent time with family. Maybe Mike put football above all of that and maybe realized it's time for me to not put football above everything else. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I did not, call for this man's termination or just removal, because I did, starting in 2017, 2018, when they lost to Jacksonville. I was adamant that this guy is not what we saw in his first 4 years, that there were a lot of problems that Mike Tomlin had in terms of managing a game, timeouts, challenges, et cetera, personnel decisions, right? He was the baker. He bought all the ingredients. He mixed everything. He brought the product out. When you allow a coach to have that kind of autonomy, there's a negative to that. He was director of football operations. He was everything and anything. And, the guys that are on the national stage that are talking about Tomlin and, he never had a losing season, and they list all the accomplishments, but what don't they list? Hasn't been able to figure out the quarterback situation since, Ben Roethlisberger left, didn't figure out the quarterback situation prior to Ben leaving, right? He drafted Mason Rudolph, but obviously he wasn't a fan of Rudolph, and he drafted the guy, right? He drafted Mason Rudolph, right? I know Kevin Colbert was in charge of all of that, but don't think that Tomlin wasn't involved. Tomlin is football operations with the Steelers. Everything that happened on the football side, Mike Tomlin had a say in. So you have to go back and take an accounting of all of that and understand that Mike is to answer for all of those things. And yes, we are a blue blood. We are a gold standard. Us, the Cowboys, the Packers, the 49ers, the Patriots, right? If there were 5 teams that you had to say were the gold standard in the National Football League without putting them in any kind of order, Steelers, right? Packers, Patriots, Cowboys, 49ers. Those are your 5 blue bloods. More than any other franchise. Those are your blue bloods, and we are a blue blood. We are a standard above all others in this league. So when I look online and I say, well, the Pittsburgh job isn't really desirable. What are you even saying? What are you even saying? Are you insane? Have you lost your marbles? Of course the Steelers job is a blue blood and a desirable job. Winning is what we do here. This franchise wins. It was set by Dan Rooney and the team of people that he had around him in the late 60s. It started with Chuck Knowles hiring and then building from the draft from there. And stability in coaching. Look at all these other franchises that go through coaches every 3 years. That doesn't happen here. If you want to chime in, you're welcome to do so in the comments section. I always want to give a phone number because I did talk radio for 412-928-9370. That's what I want to say. I can't remember the phone number over on Ardmore Boulevard. I wish I could remember. That was so long ago, almost 30 years now. But Mean Green has a comment. Our beloved Chief Art Rooney Sr. set the franchise off and running, one of the building blocks. Well, he was a building block. Unfortunately, Mean Green, he could not win. He did not win much. And I never met the Chief. I only remember when he passed away. I was a freshman in college. I used to work down at Three Rivers Stadium. I remember being in that stadium after he had passed away. I remember all of the newspapers. I think the Post-Gazette did a special section edition for him. Everybody in the stadium got a newspaper that particular day. I would make the trip down from Edinburgh to work on the weekends whenever they were home. But he set the foundation for things, and then Dan Rooney, his son, was the one that really just kind of built the franchise to what it is today. And any coach that's looking to, or any assistant coach right now that wants to take the step up is looking at this job. I can guarantee you the other 8 jobs, maybe outside of, say, the Baltimore job because it's got Lamar Jackson, and say New York, right? New York's always going to be a draw for anybody, but there is a caveat to that. It's freaking New York and the pressure cooker that is, again, a landmark franchise, the Giants, right? A landmark franchise, one that has suffered for quite a long time now, but still New York has its own set of rules to it, right? It's a meat grinder because it's New York. But anybody that's an assistant coach in the National Football League or has been a head coach, a Kevin Stefanski for you, right? Mike McCarthy, if you will. Everybody's looking at this job right now as saying, that's the one. That's the franchise I want to work for. That's the ownership group I want to work for. All right. And I've made fun of Art Rooney II. He was an attorney who happened into the family business as his father started to get older, right? I don't think Art, I think, I lament about Art and say, he's an attorney and, he's not a football guy. He is a football guy at the end of the day. He's a Rooney. He's been around it his whole life. Didn't choose that path, but he has in the last quarter century now. You ever get a chance to meet any of the Chiefs' children? I have, but I don't want to get into all of that. There was a time in my life when I was heavily involved in sports media and met people and talked to people, but that was a long time ago. Gavin, you should seek help. But thank you. I appreciate you listening to me here this evening. A nice little crowd joining us here on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Bill Akins is going to stop on by here in a few minutes. Bill Akins is the host of the Pittsburgh Sports Desk. That show is coming on in about 17 minutes. We do not just the Pittsburgh Sports Tonight show, but we do Pittsburgh Sports Desk on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. Bill Akins hosts that. He also on Thursday nights hosts the Gridiron Weekly show. Bill, of course, has been working with me as my producer on Steel City Sunday. Unfortunately for us, no more Steel City Sunday. Season's over, right? But we're going to continue to add more programming as the year progresses. And of course, portions of today's broadcast are brought to us by Arch Masonry and Restoration, concrete people, brick masons, block masons. If you're a laborer and you're looking for work, give Arch Masonry a call, 412-564-5733, archmasonryinc.com to reach out to them. And of course, as always, we are NPL, North Park Lounge, Richland. They got us on the air. I can't thank them enough. They're the reason why we were able to make things happen this year in terms of the broadcasts and, of course, Steel City Sunday, Mark Baranowski and the NPL Restaurant Group. Such good people. They own, manages 7 different bars and restaurants. Of course, North Park Lounge. There's a North Park Lounge right down the street here for me. I just moved to Allison Park a few months ago, so there's one like literally right down the road. But we were broadcasting out of NPL Richland right there on Route 8 in Gibsonia all year long. Can't thank those people enough for getting us started on everything. They are fantastic, and we can't say thank you enough. In the meantime, It's a Wrap Sports, as I am doing all my plugs right now. It's a Wrap Sports is the reason why we are actually able to get on the air. Matty B and his team of people out in Philadelphia, they do shows across the state of Pennsylvania. They have a show that features Penn State athletics, but they're very Philly-centric. Of course, our show tonight was added at the last minute, but the sports desk tonight and the final word with Matty B. Matty's got an opinion. I will say that much about Matty, and he does a good job Sundays through Thursday nights at 9:00 Eastern. The final word with Matty B and the It's a Wrap Sports team. They do a bunch of different shows, props, locks, and parlays with Mike Loro. Mike also hosts a Penn State show as well. Check out It's a Wrap Sports on X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And as I had mentioned one last time, I'll get through this, folks, and we'll spend a few more minutes talking here. If you're not following us on YouTube specifically, please go to YouTube and check us out at Steel City Sunday. I can't tell you how much we want to get that channel up to 500 people by the start of the baseball season. I want to get to 500 people by baseball. I want to be able to do some Pirate pregame shows this year. We want to be able to do the NFL draft, and I think we're going to get there. I really do. But if you can follow us on any of our social media sites, I'm asking you nicely to please go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help us out greatly. And as I mentioned, I want to add shows to 4 nights a week here starting soon. I want to get to that maybe by the end of the month. God willing, we'll see what happens there. But the fact of the matter is that the only way I can do this is with your support, and I am very grateful that there's a good portion of you that are hanging out tonight, and that's awesome. I can't thank you enough. Your comments are certainly welcome. We got a few more that just kind of came in here. Let's see, Ethan, not a shocker. I have subscribed. Yeah, I appreciate Ethan. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you to do that. Mean Green, win, lose, or tie. You're a Steelers fan forever from 1975 and beyond. That is very, very kind of you. So we're moving along here. Hopefully Bill Akins will join us here in a few minutes. Nonetheless, I want to see who the first candidate. I'm excited to see who the first candidates are. We've seen a lot of speculation as to who, right? We've seen a lot of speculation as to who might come in here. And I was looking on X earlier. I know that the Steelers have put requests in to talk to Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula, their pass game coordinator Nathan Shielhaas. That according to Albert Breer. Albert Breer is a senior NFL reporter on Monday Morning Quarterback and NBC Sports Boston. So that was from earlier today. They are going to, I think, leave no stone unturned. This one thing I'll say again about Dan Rooney and this process. They are going to look at a lot of candidates. I said 8 to 12. It might be upwards of 20 or more. That their initial list might include over 20 people. It might be bigger than that, quite frankly, right? And candidates that are not head coaches are going to be fair game to anybody in the National Football League. Brian Flores, Jesse Minter, Anthony Weaver as well. All good names, Ethan, all good names. Bring them all in, right? You want to be wowed by somebody, right? That's how Mike Tomlin got the job. They blew him away. That was the statement that they made, right? And again, Russ Grimm was supposed to take that position. He was supposed to get that job. And he ended up not getting that job. And, the simple truth of the matter is that they'll talk to as many people as they can get their hands on. And eventually, they will find somebody. And I'm excited about it. I don't want to hear about, oh, the grass is greener and you're going to have what happens if you have a losing season? Somebody was agitating me today as I was moving around Pittsburgh. And I just said, look, if you think a 4-13 season is a reason to say, I told you so, we should have kept Mike Tomlin. No. Again, look at how Tomlin has left this team. He didn't leave this franchise the way he picked it up, right? People were like, oh, well, they were 8-8. Yeah, they had just won a Super Bowl the year prior. He had Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback, right? He had Troy Polamalu. He had all these stellar defensive players, right? They had Santonio Holmes. Like they had Hines Ward. They had a plethora. They had James Harrison, right? They had Brett Kiesel. They had all these players that were in place from the 2005 team that he inherits as head coach. He inherits a Super Bowl roster of talent and was able to manufacture 2 trips to play for a Lombardi out of it. He's leaving this franchise not the same way he found it, right? And anybody that wants to try to make some sort of comparison, and I saw that too. Well, Chuck Noll had a few players left over. Chuck Noll was 11 years removed from a Super Bowl team. It was a completely different roster, for crying out loud. My God, it was Bubby Brister was our quarterback. Did you ever see who lived during the Bubby Brister era? Anybody that's watching right now? Did anybody? Raise your hand if you did. I mean, I like the Bubster and all. Did you live through the, Neil O'Donnell era like I did? I never liked Neil O'Donnell. I was never a big fan. Karen, you're being very bad. I'm very sorry about that. No, I'm not. She won't be getting tired of me anytime soon. The truth of the matter is that Mike Tomlin is leaving the cupboard a lot emptier than when he found the cupboard, okay? And I'm not saying that played a role in his final decision, okay? I think there are a number of factors, many that were some that we're never going to get to, right? Some that we're never going to get to. It'll be interesting to see who Mike speaks to first in the media. I'm sure it'll be a national talking head that'll, go easy on him and give him a chance to speak his mind and say what he wants to say. I'm sure whenever Mike does land a TV gig, and he will, right? He's not going to go without compensation this year. Not that he's hurting for money. I'm sure there are networks that are already lined up to talk to him. And I'm pretty certain that he's going to do TV at least this year, right? I don't know if he'll do TV for 2 years. He might, if he does, he might find out that he likes it so much. He might find out that he wants to keep doing television like Cowher did, right? What was that famous quote that Cowher said at his, when he was stepping down? Do I look like I'm burned out? Somebody asked him if he was burned out. He goes, do I look burned out? Bill found out that he liked television way too much. What's not to like about TV? I always said that. When I used to work at Arbor Boulevard and I'd get done with my shifts or I'd be in between shows, a Pitt basketball game or somebody was on the air, I'd go upstairs and I'd hang out with Andrew Stockey and Pat Paris in the sports department up there. And I would look at them and I'd go, you TV guys, you have the life. Then I spent 3 years over at Channel 11 working with John Fedko and Sam Nover. And, it was not bad. TV was fun. TV is a whole different animal in the media world. Those guys have the best. Ethan thinks that Tomlin would be great on television. I don't know. I think I'm in the Mark Cabali crowd over there and saying I don't know if he would translate well to TV. Maybe in a certain scenario he could, possibly. Maybe in a certain scenario, I don't know if his coach speak would translate. I guess we're going to find out. Did Rooney ask Tomlin who he would want as his preferred successor? Maybe he said Brian Flores. I don't think that conversation happened, Ethan. I don't think Art asked him that at all. Just my guess. I think that conversation was really about Mike is stepping away, and this is best for Mike. And I don't think that was that had any sort of factor in yesterday's conversation. Mean Green says Cowher is still with CBS. Maybe Tomlin goes there unless he would go to Fox with Bradshaw and his crew. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know. Well, he's got 4 options. He's got 4 options. He's got CBS, right? He's got Fox. He's got NBC, and he's got 5 options. He's got Fox, NBC, and CBS, and then he has ESPN and then NFL Network. He has those 5 options, I would think, right? And if he goes to NFL Network, he could be loaned out to, say, Prime. He could be loaned out to the streaming networks, perhaps, right? I don't, I'm sure they have some sort of relationship with those networks to do those sorts of things. This is going to play out. I don't think anything will happen with Tomlin for at least a month. I think something will be, in terms of Mike Tomlin's future, if it's television, I think it'll be announced somewhere before the draft. I think we'll get that before the draft for sure, and especially if it's ESPN or NFL Network, right? If he ends up at one of those 2, it's going to happen before the draft. What better way to introduce your new TV star than at the NFL draft? And now that those 2 networks are sharing the draft, that's a great way to bring Mike Tomlin onto a national stage and highlight him and maybe his personality, maybe it may translate. I don't know. You've been so. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Mike wants to do. I think television is most definitely an avenue for him. I think that's, that goes without question. All right, just a couple more minutes and I'm going to wrap up because I know Bill Akins is getting ready to do his show tonight, which is the Pittsburgh Sports Desk. You'll be able to check that out here in a few minutes. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me this evening. This was very impromptu. Around 3:00, I just decided, hey, I want to do another hour tonight. I wanted to make sure that we got the Art Rooney presser out to everybody. And if you didn't hear it, I'm glad you were able to check out. Thank you for the Steelers for putting that on their YouTube channel. We've been able to take some things from them this year and use them. And it's always nice as an avenue for us to kind of provide some additional content. And as I said, I'm learning more about how this StreamYard system works. And I'm going to add more audio and other elements to the show over the course of the next a few weeks and months as we kind of build out more programming through the course of 2026. Thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out this evening. Again, we are brought to you by North Park Lounge Richland, Hilltop Event Center, and of course, Arch Masonry and Restoration. Without those folks, we aren't able to get on the air. All right. I'm going to sign off. I want to thank everybody for checking out the show this evening. I'll be back in here Monday next week. I am working on some guests, and I will probably make some announcements early Monday as to who we're bringing on. I want to do just an hour a night, and I want it to be fun, and I want it to be free form, if you will, and I want to highlight people that are Pittsburgh-centric and non-Pittsburgh-centric with my own twist on it. That's just how I roll, and that's what I want this channel to be for myself. It is selfish, but that's okay. Hopefully you'll find it to be entertaining. Mean Green, always a pleasure to chat with you and other Steeler fans. I agree as well. All right, everybody, I want to thank you for checking out the show this evening. This has been Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Stick around. In about 5 minutes, it'll be the Pittsburgh Sports Desk with Bill Akins and his entire crew. You can check them out here in a few minutes. Until then, I appreciate you all checking us out this evening. My name is John Phillips. We'll talk to you Monday. This has been Pittsburgh Sports Tonight here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Bye.